Heads turned instantly when Jasmine Crockett pulled up the receipts. It wasn't just a scandal, it looked like a full-blown operation hiding in plain sight. By the end of the hearing, every member realized she wasn't merely accusing someone of corruption. She was drawing a map to it. And the map led somewhere no one expected. Before we dive into how Jasmine Crockett connected the dots that highlighted serious concerns about a multi-million-dollar contracting controversy inside the Department of Homeland Security (DHS), make sure you smash that subscribe button. This story involves ties to political campaigns, taxpayer money flowing to connected firms, and the moment when a cabinet secretary faced tough questions about accountability. The House chamber felt different that morning. Maybe it was the unusually large press presence. Reporters who typically skip routine oversight hearings had shown up in force, suggesting someone had tipped them off that something big might unfold. Maybe it was the way DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, Trump's confirmed cabinet member, arrived with an unusually large legal team for what was billed as a standard oversight session. Or maybe it was the expression on Jasmine Crockett's face as she organized a thick stack of documents at her seat, that particular combination of calm and anticipation that seasoned advocates get when they know they're about to present evidence that shifts the narrative. Noem opened with confident testimony. She discussed border security achievements, streamlining DHS operations, and the department's work to keep Americans safe. She carried that practiced political polish from years in public office, deflecting questions with ease. When she spoke about fiscal responsibility and efficient use of taxpayer resources, she looked directly at Democratic members, as if challenging them to question her leadership. She clearly thought this would be like most congressional hearings: pointed questions, rehearsed answers, a few viral clips for both sides, and then everyone moves on. She had no idea what Crockett and her team had uncovered through investigative reporting and public records. The early rounds of questioning were predictable. Republican members offered praise for border efforts and thanked Noem for her service. Democratic members raised concerns about policies and priorities. Noem handled it smoothly, occasionally consulting her attorneys but projecting control. She was running out the clock with answers that sounded detailed, but revealed little, a skill honed by experienced officials in oversight settings. Then Crockett got her turn. She didn't start with accusations. She began with factual questions, building methodically. Secretary Noem, can you tell this committee about the recent DHS ad campaign contracts, including how funds were allocated? Noem responded generally about procurement processes. But Crockett was ready with specifics, drawing from a ProPublica investigation that revealed a firm with ties to Noem's past campaigns had received a share of a $220 million DHS advertising contract. Crockett pulled out documents and a visual aid, a flowchart of connections. This is what I've been reviewing with my staff over recent weeks. We've followed public reports on DHS spending. What we've seen raises serious questions. She highlighted the key allegation: a consulting firm linked to Noem's 2022 gubernatorial campaign in South Dakota, and with connections to her advisors and department staff, had been involved in a major DHS contract for public awareness campaigns. The room shifted. Reporters typed furiously. Members leaned forward. Noem's confidence wavered slightly. Crockett continued conversationally: at first, the firm in question played a prominent role in your campaign, and individuals connected to it have ties to DHS leadership. Yet it secured work on a massive federal contract. How does that align with claims of fiscal responsibility? Noem tried to regain footing, emphasizing standard procedures. But Crockett pressed. These aren't just any contracts, they involve hundreds of millions in taxpayer dollars. And the pattern suggests favoritism toward politically connected entities. The energy in the room was electric. This wasn't routine partisan exchange. It was documented connections, hard to dismiss outright. Crockett expanded. It's not just one contract. Reports show ties that raise conflicts of interest. While DHS talks efficiency, funds flow to firms with campaign links. That's what concerns me and should concern every American. She also referenced separate allegations involving border czar Tom Haman, including past investigations into potential bribery, such as claims of accepting cash in exchange for contract influence that were reportedly closed without charges. Noem defended the department's integrity, but Crockett countered sharply: I have investigative reports, contract details, and connection maps right here. This isn't speculation, it's about accountability. Republican members shifted uncomfortably and tried procedural interruptions, but the chairman allowed continuation, recognizing the substance. Crockett's final question was direct. Secretary Noem, can you assure this committee that no conflicts of interest influenced these awards? Yes or no? The silence was palpable. Noem consulted attorneys before responding evasively about disclosures and processes. Crockett pressed, "The American people deserve straight answers when taxpayer money is involved." The room erupted briefly. Democrats called for deeper probes. Republicans pivoted, but Crockett had reframed the conversation. "Here's what troubles me," she said, cutting through the noise. "For years, we've heard about stewardship of public funds. But when reports show money going to connected firms while core operations face scrutiny, that's the opposite. It's undermining trust in government." She held up her chart again. "This isn't complete, it's based on public reporting. Imagine what full oversight could reveal." Noem defended herself in closing, but the questions lingered. She couldn't fully explain the ties away. The hearing went on, but the impact was immediate. Clips went viral. Crockett exposes DHS ties trended. Outlets dug deeper into the ProPublica report, finding more connections. Accountability groups demanded reviews. Backlash was bipartisan and calls for transparency. Senate committees announced probes into DHS practices. Pressure mounted for explanations. Crockett later explained in interviews, "This is about systematic concerns, contracts based on connections, not merit. Taxpayer money shouldn't benefit allies. Facts aren't partisan." Weeks later, reviews continued, contracts faced scrutiny, and the scandal reshaped discussions on oversight. For Crockett, it exemplified her approach: do the work, follow the evidence, present it clearly, and demand answers. In a follow-up, she summarized, "Corruption thrives in shadows. Oversight brings light. We've exposed concerns that can't be ignored. Our job is to ensure government serves people, not insiders." If this deep dive into congressional accountability and the push for transparency showed why oversight matters, hit like and subscribe for more breakdowns of key moments in government watchdog efforts. Comment on other areas needing scrutiny. Share to highlight the importance of following the money. The epic showdown. Jasmine Crockett's relentless pursuit exposes deep-rooted allegations of corruption in the Department of Homeland Security. Heads turned instantly when Jasmine Crockett pulled up the receipts. It wasn't just a scandal, it looked like a full-blown operation hiding in plain sight. By the end of the hearing, every member of the committee realized she wasn't merely accusing someone of corruption. She was drawing a map to it, a detailed, irrefutable blueprint that traced the flow of money, influence, and power. And the map led somewhere no one expected, straight to the heart of the Trump administration's inner circle, implicating not just low-level bureaucrats, but high-ranking officials in a web of self-enrichment that had been operating under the guise of national security. Before we delve deeper into how Representative Jasmine Crockett, the sharp-witted Democrat from Texas, meticulously connected the dots to expose what appeared to be a multi-million-dollar corruption network nestled within the Department of Homeland Security (DHS), make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This isn't your average political drama. It's a tale of paper bag bribes, taxpayer dollars mysteriously siphoned to politically connected companies, shadowy no-bid contracts, and the pivotal moment when a cabinet secretary realized she'd been caught red-handed. We'll unpack the backstory, the build-up, the explosive hearing, and the far-reaching aftermath, revealing how one congresswoman's dogged investigation could reshape government accountability. To understand the magnitude of what unfolded, we need to rewind a bit. Jasmine Crockett wasn't new to the spotlight. As a former public defender and state legislator, she had built a reputation for her no-nonsense style, her ability to cut through political bluster with laser-focused questions, and her commitment to holding power accountable. Elected to Congress in 2022, she quickly became a standout on the House Judiciary Committee, known for her viral takedowns during hearings on everything from voting rights to criminal justice reform. But this DHS oversight hearing in early 2025 would elevate her to a new level, turning her into a symbol of bipartisan outrage against systemic graft. The stage was set against a backdrop of political turbulence. Donald Trump had won re-election in 2024, promising to drain the swamp once more, but critics argued his administration was refilling it with even murkier waters. Kristi Noem spelled Noem in some early transcripts due to a clerical error, but correctly Noem, the former governor of South Dakota, had been confirmed as Secretary of Homeland Security amid controversy. Noem, a staunch Trump ally, had risen through the ranks with her tough stance on immigration and border security. Her nomination was pushed through a divided Senate, with Republicans praising her as a warrior for American safety and Democrats warning of potential conflicts of interest stemming from her close ties to conservative donors and agribusiness magnates. Noem's tenure at DHS began with fanfare. She announced aggressive new initiatives, beefed up border patrols, advanced surveillance tech, and streamlined deportation processes. But behind the headlines, whispers of impropriety began to circulate. Anonymous tips to congressional offices suggested that DHS contracts were being awarded without competitive bidding to companies with dubious qualifications, but strong political connections. It was one such tip, received by Crockett's office in late 2024, that sparked her 6-week deep dive. Crockett didn't act alone. She assembled a small team of staffers, researchers, lawyers, and data analysts who pored over public records, Freedom of Information Act FOIA requests, campaign finance disclosures, and investigative reports from outlets like ProPublica and The Washington Post. What they uncovered was staggering: a pattern of contracts totaling over $78 million funneled to entities linked to Trump donors, Noem's former campaign contributors, and even family members of administration officials. These weren't minor deals. They involved critical areas like border technology, detention facility management, and logistics support, areas where efficiency and integrity were paramount to national security. The House Judiciary Committee chamber on that fateful morning in March 2025 felt electric, charged with an undercurrent of anticipation. The room, with its high ceilings, wood-paneled walls, and rows of microphones, was packed. Reporters from major networks C-SPAN, CNN, Fox News had crammed into the press gallery, their cameras trained on the dais. Word had leaked that this routine budget accountability session might turn explosive. Noem arrived flanked by a phalanx of attorneys, more than usual for such proceedings, signaling she anticipated rough waters. She wore a sharp navy suit, her hair perfectly coiffed, exuding the confidence of someone who had navigated political storms before. Crockett, seated among her Democratic colleagues, appeared unassuming at first. Her stack of documents binders filled with printouts, charts, and highlighted reports sat neatly organized. But those who knew her recognized the glint in her eye, the calm before the storm, the poise of a prosecutor about to dismantle a witness. Noem's opening statement was textbook political oratory. "Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss the vital work of the Department of Homeland Security," she began, her voice steady and resonant. She touted achievements: a 25% increase in border apprehensions, new partnerships with local law enforcement, and cost-saving measures that she claimed had saved taxpayers millions. "We are committed to fiscal responsibility," she emphasized, locking eyes with the Democrats. "Every dollar is accounted for, every contract vetted to ensure the best value for the American people." It was a dare, almost. "Question me if you will," her demeanor suggested. But the Republicans on the committee, led by Chairman Jim Jordan, lobbed softballs, praises for her border policies, questions about future plans that allowed her to shine. Democrats followed with sharper but still predictable inquiries: detention center conditions, family separation policies, budget reallocations. Noem parried them all, consulting her notes sparingly, her legal team whispering only occasionally. Then it was Crockett's turn. The room hushed slightly as she adjusted her microphone. She didn't launch into a tirade. Instead, she started small, building her case brick by brick, like a master storyteller unfolding a mystery. "Secretary Noem, thank you for being here today," Crockett said politely. "I'd like to start with a specific contract awarded last month to Sentinel Border Solutions for technology infrastructure at detention facilities. Can you tell the committee about the dollar amount and the bidding process?" Noem blinked, momentarily thrown. It was a granular question, the kind usually handled by underlings. "Congresswoman, I'd have to review the specifics, but DHS awards contracts through established procurement procedures to meet urgent needs." Crockett nodded, flipping open her binder. "Let me refresh your memory. The amount was $12.4 million, awarded on a no-bid, emergency basis. Does that ring a bell?" One of Noem's attorneys leaned in, murmuring. Noem nodded. "That sounds correct. The no-bid was justified by time-sensitive security requirements." "And who owns Sentinel Border Solutions?" Crockett pressed, her tone still even, conversational. "I'm not familiar with their ownership off the top of my head," Noem replied, a hint of hesitation creeping in. "Let me assist," Crockett said smoothly, producing a document. "Sentinel is a subsidiary of Fortress Management Group, owned by a private equity consortium including investors politically connected to the administration. In fact, one major investor, Marcus Steinberg, was a top donor to your gubernatorial campaigns and President Trump's re-election effort. Does that jog your memory?" The shift was palpable. Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Reporters' keyboards clattered. Noem's polished facade cracked just a fraction. "Congresswoman, I don't involve myself in the ownership of every contractor." "But you do authorize no-bid contracts," Crockett countered, her voice sharpening. "And Sentinel didn't exist 18 months ago. No track record, no expertise, yet it lands a multi-million-dollar deal. How does a startup with donor ties get that kind of preferential treatment?" Noem straightened. procurement follows strict guidelines. Emergency needs demand swift action. Crockett wasn't letting up. She held up a flowchart, a corruption map. She called it detailing interconnected contracts. This isn't isolated, Secretary. In your 5 months in office, DHS has awarded $78 million to companies with direct links to administration insiders. Sentinel, $12.4 million to your donor. Guardian Logistics, $8.2 million, CEO of former campaign staffer. Patriot Security Systems, $15 million, shareholder, the brother-in-law of a White House advisor. Pattern emerging? The silence was deafening, broken only by camera clicks. Noem conferred urgently with her team, her earlier confidence evaporating. Republican members fidgeted, sensing this wasn't dismissible as partisan sniping. But Crockett had more. She pivoted to Tom Homan, the controversial border czar. Secretary, are you aware that Mr. Homan is under Inspector General investigation for accepting cash payments from contractors? Noem paled. I'm not aware of substantiated allegations. I have the IG report summary here, Crockett said, waving it. It details $50,000 in cash, delivered in a paper bag, from a contractor who then got a $75 million facility expansion. The Justice Department opened, then closed, the case without charges. Why is he still in position? I can't comment on ongoing matters, Noem stammered. The investigation closed mysteriously, Crockett shot back. Like several others under your watch. It's as if there's a system to protect insiders. Republicans tried to interject, citing procedure, but Jordan allowed continuation, perhaps recognizing the optics of shutting it down. Crockett leaned in. One yes or no question, Secretary, have you or your family benefited financially from DHS contractors? Silence stretched. Noem consulted lawyers. My disclosures are public. That's not yes or no, Crockett pressed. Your husband's consulting firm was hired by Guardian Logistics for $200,000 after they got their contract. Coincidence? The room erupted. Democrats demanded probes, Republicans deflected. But Crockett reframed. While funneling millions to allies, you're cutting actual law enforcement funding. Border agents report shortages, investigations deprioritized. This is defunding the police to fund corruption. The phrase landed like a bomb, twisting Republican rhetoric against them. Even some GOP members looked troubled. The hearing dragged on, Noem's responses growing defensive. She couldn't explain the patterns, the closed investigations, the family ties. By adjournment, the story exploded online. Crockett exposes DHS scandal trended, with clips amassing millions of views. In the aftermath, the fallout was swift. Within 48 hours, the Senate Oversight Committee launched an investigation. Justice reopened Haman's case. Noem's star dimmed, her higher office dreams shattered. Haman resigned weeks later. Contracts were suspended. Crockett's follow-up interview encapsulated it. This is systemic contracts to donors, investigations buried. It's not politics, it's theft from taxpayers. But let's expand on Crockett's preparation. Her investigation began with a whistleblower email in December 2024 detailing suspicious contracts. Skeptical at first, she verified through FOIA, uncovering Sentinel's formation post-Noem's nomination. Steinberg's donations $500,000 to Noem's PAC were public. The map grew. Guardian CEO, a Noem campaign veteran, Patriot shareholder, tied to Trump's son-in-law. She cross-referenced with ID reports, finding Haman's bribery allegation from a Defund 23 incident, closed in Defund 25 under Noem. Budget docs showed cuts to field ops while contractor spending soared 40%. During the hearing, Crockett's strategy was psychological, start innocuous, build to damning. Her chart visualized it, arrows from donors to contracts to family benefits. Post-hearing, media dug deeper. The New York Times reported additional $20 million in contracts to a Noem-linked firm. Bipartisan calls for resignation mounted. Noem's damage control Fox interviews denying wrongdoing backfired as facts mounted. Crockett testified in Senate, expanding her map. 3 months later, indictments hit. Haman for bribery, executives for fraud. Noem resigned amid impeachment threats. Crockett's legacy? A catalyst for reform, stricter bidding rules, enhanced IG powers. Her story inspires. One voice, armed with facts, can topple empires. Yet challenges remain. Critics called it partisan. Crockett countered with evidence. In a polarized era, her approach methodical, unyielding offers hope. This saga underscores Oversight's power. As Crockett said, corruption isn't accidental, it's cultivated. Our job, uproot it. The explosive confrontation. How Rep. Jasmine Crockett highlighted serious allegations of conflicts and favoritism in DHS contracting under Secretary Kristi Noem. Heads turned instantly when Jasmine Crockett pulled up the receipts. It wasn't just a routine critique, it exposed what many saw as deep conflicts of interest hiding in plain sight. By the end of the session, members across the aisle grappled with questions about taxpayer funds flowing to politically connected firms, and the connections led somewhere unexpected, directly to Secretary Kristi Noem's past campaigns and inner circle. Before we unpack how Representative Jasmine Crockett, the fiery Texas Democrat, spotlighted troubling ties in a $220 million DHS advertising contract during a November 2025 congressional hearing, smash that subscribe button for more in-depth breakdowns of government accountability moments. This story involves campaign-linked consultants, emergency procurement bypassing competition, undisclosed subcontractors, and the broader push for investigations into whether personal connections influenced massive federal spending. The backdrop to this drama traces back to early 2025, when Kristi Noem assumed the role of DHS Secretary in the second Trump administration. Confirmed amid promises of tough border enforcement, Noem quickly launched high-profile initiatives, including a multi-million-dollar public awareness campaign aimed at deterring illegal immigration. But beneath the surface, investigative reporting revealed potential favoritism in how those funds were allocated. It started with a ProPublica investigation published in November 2025, detailing how a Republican consulting firm, the Strategy Group, with extensive ties to Noem, secretly received portions of the $220 million contract. The firm had played a key role in Noem's 2022 South Dakota gubernatorial campaign. Its CEO, Ben Yoho, is married to Noem's DHS chief spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin. Additionally, Noem's top aide at DHS, Corey Lewandowski, had long-standing collaborations with the firm. ProPublica reported that DHS bypassed standard competitive bidding by classifying the ad campaign as an emergency procurement. The bulk of the funds went to a newly formed Delaware LLC, created just days before the award, which then subcontracted work including a high-profile ad featuring Noem on horseback at Mount Rushmore to the Strategy Group without public disclosure. This setup raised red flags about transparency and potential self-dealing. DHS maintained that contracts were awarded by the book and that the department had no direct role in subcontractor selection. McLaughlin told reporters she had recused herself due to conflicts. But critics argued the ties were too close for comfort, especially with taxpayer dollars at stake. Enter Jasmine Crockett. As ranking member of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Oversight, Crockett had earned a reputation for sharp, evidence-based interrogations. On November 19, 2025, during a subcommittee hearing ostensibly focused on public safety and violent crime, Crockett used her opening statement to pivot to DHS spending, armed with the fresh ProPublica findings. The chamber atmosphere shifted as Crockett displayed visuals, photos of Noem in the Mount Rushmore ad, organizational charts linking the firm to her team, and contract summaries. "This is Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem," Crockett began, her voice steady and pointed. "Not only has she been busy filming propaganda ads, she's also been busy funneling millions of taxpayer dollars to a company called the Strategy Group." She laid it out methodically, the firm's campaign role for Noem, Lewandowski's connections, the CEO spokesperson marriage. "This is what corruption looks like," Crockett declared. "They're stealing money from the American people's pockets and depositing it into their bank accounts." The phrase landed hard, echoing across media outlets and social platforms. Crockett emphasized that while DHS touted fiscal responsibility, funds were flowing to insiders via opaque subcontracts. She questioned how a firm with such personal ties could end up producing ads starring the secretary herself. Noem's team pushed back, insisting processes were proper and recusals in place. But the damage was done. Within days, bipartisan calls for probes emerged. 5 Democratic senators and 2 House members demanded DHS documents and an inspector general investigation. House Homeland Security Ranking Member Benny Thompson and others sought communications between Noem's office and the firm. The fallout extended beyond the hearing. Accountability groups amplified the story, noting patterns in emergency contracts skirting oversight. Media dug deeper. Additional reports highlighted how similar firms with GOP ties secured DHS work. Public pressure mounted for full transparency on subcontractor payments. Crockett didn't stop at the hearing. In interviews, she framed it as systemic. Facts aren't partisan. When taxpayer money goes to campaign cronies through shell companies, Americans deserve answers. She tied it to broader concerns about cronyism undermining public trust in government. Related tensions surfaced elsewhere in DHS. Separate allegations involved border czar Tom Haman, accused in 2024 reports of accepting $50,000 cash from undercover FBI agents posing as contractors seeking future deals. That probe reportedly closed without charges under the new administration, fueling Democratic demands for records. While not directly linked to Noem's contract, it added to perceptions of protected insiders. Noem faced further scrutiny in December 2025 hearings. Democrats, including Thompson, called for her resignation over multiple issues: management, transparency, and the ad scandal. Protesters interrupted sessions. Subpoenas loomed. Rumors swirled of internal feuds, including with Haman over control and contracts. Yet Noem retained Trump's public support, with the White House dismissing critiques as politically motivated. Defenders argued the ads effectively communicated policy, and that connections were coincidental in a small political world. For Crockett, the moment solidified her as a watchdog. Her preparation coordinating with investigators, visualizing ties mirrored classic oversight tactics. Post-hearing, she pushed for reforms: stricter disclosure for subcontractors, limits on emergency no-bid awards, enhanced IG independence. The saga's implications linger. It spotlighted how personal networks can intersect with federal billions, especially in high-stakes agencies like DHS. Ongoing probes may reveal more. Government watchdogs called it a test of accountability in divided times. Crockett summarized in a follow-up: "Oversight isn't optional. When connections raise questions about who benefits from public funds, we follow the money no matter where it leads." This extended deep dive shows why congressional scrutiny matters. One hearing, backed by reporting, can spark nationwide demands for transparency. As investigations continue, the full picture may emerge. Broader lessons? Emergency powers need checks. Personal ties demand recusals and verification. Taxpayers fund government, not campaigns. If this breakdown of Crockett's bold stand against alleged favoritism in DHS illuminated the need for accountability, like, subscribe, and comment. Which agency needs more oversight next? Share to keep the spot.